So I'll start with some what do we call it? Housekeeping. Next week, I'm having a week off for Christmas because I'm overworked. just just practically, it'll be it'll be easier if I don't have any meetings next week. And then I'll have the next meeting. So there'll be a meeting Thursday, but not next Monday or next Thursday. Okay. And apologies if there's been that you haven't had you didn't receive the email, or that there's a problem with the link with the email. It looks as though there's something gone amiss, but I don't know what. I think it's thrown me a bit. My technical incompetence. Few old demons have come up there. So whatever we're calling the seeing through of self, the absence of self, the unraveling of self, the dissolution of self, whatever we're calling that, it isn't the end of cock-ups. It isn't the end of seeming problems. It isn't about, oh, suddenly I'll start getting everything right. Everything will fall into place. Which is very self-evident at the moment. This isn't about life being any particular way at all. It's just outrageously simply saying that life is just as it is, regardless of what is said about it, or what stories we want to tell about what's happening. or what seems to be appearing, what seems to be going on. So cock-ups and problems are happening perfectly, just the same as when things go the way you'd like them to go. So things running smoothly, or things seemingly running against the tide, against the flow, things not going right. There really is no difference. And somebody said to me the other day, well, it's okay for you because everything seems perfect to you. And that's really not, that's really not true at all. Everything is perfect just because it is. Being perfectly as it is, that's the perfection. But that doesn't mean to say that you like everything and that everything happens and you don't, there's no, it's not that there won't be any conflict, but there's a massive difference between my demands that life meet my expectations and life as it is. But life, if my demand that life meet my expectations, of course, if that's as it is, then that's as it is. You can. There simply isn't a way that this should appear. Life just appears beautifully, effortlessly, with effort or without effort, seemingly. Whether we like what's appearing or not, whether it feels right or not. Exactly as it is. Seems like I've not got much to say today. Seems like that makes a change. I will have to get myself a technical assistant. I have got one, Darren. I've got two, Kelly, as well. But unfortunately, I'm still relying on myself to do all the invitations, and obviously I've I've made an error somewhere. So somebody else say something.
Hey, Tim.
Hi, who's that?
It's Art.
Art, yeah, nice to see you.
Good to see you. I like that clock on your wall.
It's a very nice clock. Notice it doesn't work, but it's purely decorative.
I hear that it's right at least twice a day.
Twice a day. Spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say. I'm just laid out in bed, got a hurt wrist right now. But just wanted to say hi.
Hi, Art. Ask me a question, otherwise I'm just going to sit here and drink coffee, it looks like.
All right. So how long have you been enlightened, Tim?
Are you taking the piss?
Well, I'm being playful.
I thought you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. In colloquial English, then taking the piss is is kind of playful.
Well, it can also be a bit of a put down. Yes, I don't mean it that way.
No, I don't take it that way either.
Okay.
No, well, there's no enlightenment, Art. You know that. That's why you being playful with me, aren't you? You're playing me.
Yes. I'm playing you like a violin, Tim. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Well, good. If you if you want to know, in the story of Tim, when he completely disintegrated and fell to pieces in despair, about what is it now? Three and a half years ago, something like that. 4 years ago. Is that what you meant?
I guess it is. Yeah, I was sort of just joking around with the idea of enlightenment,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, but I see what you're saying. So yeah, was there a sudden moment when Tim was no longer there, or was it a gradual thing?
Yeah, it was very gradual, imperceptibly gradual, and excruciatingly painful.
And why would you say it was painful?
Oh, it was very painful.
Why?
It was so much terror. I was just terrified of my demise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cried and screamed like a baby for my life. You could say like a big girl, but that's being too sexist, so I won't say that. I didn't say that.
Yes.
I cried. When you're a kid at school, and if you cried and the boys called you a big girl.
Sure.
It was a different time. You wouldn't get called it now, I'm sure. You would, honestly.
I think I blocked out all those memories, Tim.
Sexist male I know. That hasn't died. I tell you, there might be the PC police out there, but you go into a playground and very little has changed. I think you'll find.
Yeah, yes. I believe that. Yeah.
Because it felt like I was being dragged to my death. Then I screamed and kicked and spat and it was very dramatic.
And how long did that dramatic crying like a girl last?
I wish I hadn't said that now, because you've actually quoted me as crying like a girl, and I'm taking it all back. And
Okay, okay. Cry. Well, just how long did the?
I'm going to deny it. Okay.
Yeah, it's off the record, Tim.
Okay.
Yes.
So speaking off the record about
how long did this last though? The terrifying. Was that 1 day or a week or
3 months? 3 months.
3 months.
Maybe 4.
Goodness.
I can't. I don't recall details of it. I have to say that's all a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. And then there was no. You asked, was there a moment, of when I was no more, and there was no recognition of that here. I don't know others who seemingly have had something similar happen. There is a moment when they could say, okay, I was there, and then I'm not. But that's not how it was here. The only way that, and it's still not, by the way, there's no recognition that I'm here or not here. There's neither of them. One doesn't make more sense than the other. To say that, there's me or no me. What seems very clear is that in the absence of self, there isn't anything in its place. So there isn't a sense of being no me. It's just the end of the illusion of being me, which isn't noticeable. You can't see an absence. That's the best I've got, really. And none of it means anything. I will say none of that means anything anymore at all. As a seeker, it meant a lot. It was funny because I asked for it. I mean, I asked for the absence of myself endlessly. For years and years, I just wanted an end of the shit that I created for myself. The pain, the anxiety, the fear. And just beating the crap out of myself. I was sick of doing that. I was just sick of it. And so I longed for the absence of myself. And I really asked for it. And then, seemingly, it felt like I was getting it. Life came, took me by the throat, ripped my guts out, dragged me by my balls, kicking and screaming, seemingly to my death, to the abyss, into nothing. It felt like I was being dragged into nothing. And a lot of the screaming was internal, to screaming at life to stop. I remember screaming it, and then sometimes I would scream it out loud. For fuck's sake, stop, you're killing me. This is, so I kidded myself that I wanted it, and then when it came, I just didn't want it. Oh no. No. What to just into, I didn't know, into not knowing. At least while I was in terror, I knew who I was. I knew it was me who was terrified, and there is security in fear, for self. Self feels very solid and real when in fear.
Yeah.
So all I could say about the absence of me is the recognition was the absence of the symptoms, what I'd call the symptoms, they're not really, of what that self created. So there was just this great peace. And it might sound a bit grandiose, but I remember lying in bed and there was this overwhelming peace, although I felt I'd lost everything. And there was just this all-encompassing emptiness, just this incredible spaciousness. I just thought it's just nothing. It's just nothing. But then there was this wonderful peace, and it dawned on me that it's what had always been termed the peace that passes all understanding, because it didn't make any sense. Because I wasn't in peace. It was devastating. It was complete devastation. So how could there be this peace? And then it dawned on me, of course, it makes no sense. No, it's beyond understanding. It's no logic to it. It just doesn't make sense. And of course, all I ever did was try to make sense. I was always, as me, I was always trying to make sense of life. And life doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. The suffering, you could say, most of the self-torture was trying to make sense, to understand.
Yeah.
And so I was left in this not understanding. And to be honest, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. It was because it's not what I was looking for. It wasn't happiness. I seemingly hadn't got anything I wanted. But then this sense of all-encompassing peace was there, and that never left. So even when in appearances, in relationships, in whatever I'm doing, things go completely wrong and life seems to be going tits up, as we might say, there's a peace in that. Everything is all happenings have this, you could say, underlying, or this, it's within everything. All happenings are just have this sense of peace. And it seems very simple now that it's just because they couldn't be otherwise. And the lack of the peace. Oh, by the way, the other thing that became obvious, not immediately, I would say, but it became obvious that this peace wasn't something new. It wasn't something that I'd found. This is the peace that passes all understanding. But of course, it's seemingly missed in the, well, this isn't quite right. Whereas the peace is, well, it doesn't matter whether it's quite right or quite wrong. The peace is always. But I have to say, if I'm really honest, I was pissed off with the lack of bliss. Because that's what I was after. That's what I really wanted. Well, that's what I thought. But then maybe, who knows, one human being's bliss may be another's peace. You know, who's to say that they're different? You know, they're not the same, because every character who attempts to describe what we're the indescribable, as we're trying to do, as I attempt to do, just like anyone else who attempts to do this, it can only come through the language that the character has learned, and their interpretation, you know, each human being's interpretation of the word. So if I say bliss, someone else's bliss would be quite different, maybe. But by bliss, I always thought it would be spectacular. That's what I was, you know, something like the best love making that you've ever experienced, only with fireworks and a full orchestra in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Something that, you know, it's something really like, whoa, that's what I was looking for. Choirs of angels, the London Philharmonic Orchestra, and the woman of my dreams all rolled into one.
Yeah.
None of that.
Well, I think you got lucky, Tim.
You could say. Now, the thing about this, I think you could say it either way. You could say the human being who loses, because this is a loss, not a gain, who seemingly loses, you know, they got lucky. Or you could say they got unlucky.
Well, I guess what I meant was I think you're lucky you didn't get that Philharmonic Orchestra experience, because maybe then those types of experiences seem to come and go and seem to just
true,
keep the person seeking for the next one of them.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, no, you're dead right, Art, because that is what I did for. I did that for 25 years after the orchestra, and I mean, it wasn't with a woman. I emphasize that it was with rocks. It was with rocks and trees rather than a woman.
Mother Nature.
But yeah, but there was bliss in that, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And then I went seeking that, seeking for it, trying to. I tried to reenact it. Kept going to the place, thinking what I was doing, wearing the same underpants. I'm joking about that. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Being superstitious about it. That's because a lot of spirituality is basically superstition, isn't it? I think there's a hell.
Yep.
Well, not, you know, it's not essentially, but there's a lot of superstition in that.
No, there is. You're right. Yeah.
And
Go to this mountain and go to this mountain, stay in this
all of
pose.
that, yeah. Special people, special places, special events, and special states, of course, which the bliss thing is a special state, which can be, and what I'm speaking about is not a state at all. It's all states.
You speak about it beautifully, Tim, honestly.
Oh, thanks, Art.
And I do have one question that my mind is curious about, is what's your take on this description of the contracted energy in the body that appears to go away? What's your take on that description?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, yeah, it's pretty. Well, I think it is pretty good because because the self is definitely inside, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's not that you just can't say anymore. I just can't say inside or outside, really. Because although I would say, you know, going back to the happening that didn't happen, all the the emptiness became gradually less and less totally empty and full of everything. Almost exactly the same as before, you could say. But the big difference is it's not me inside and all the other stuff outside. I mean, it is that simple. So the description, I don't use the word energy much because it doesn't really resonate with me. It doesn't really, I don't get the sense of that there was an energetic expansion that I've heard talk about. There was no sense of that.
Well, thank you, Tim.
But no inside and outside.
That makes sense. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Art. Hi,
yeah,
Mike.
Really lovely to hear you speak.
Thanks, Art.
Yeah.
Michael.
How is the sense of self seen, the sense of personal identity seen now? How is that experienced?
I don't know what to say to that, Michael.
Really?
Really, I don't know. Yeah. So I think, I don't know how it's seen. It feels, it's as if there is absolutely no difference than when I would say Tim was experiencing everything on a personal level than it is now. It's just that it's not taken personally, which doesn't sort of make sense. But so I think what it is self, the illusion of it, of thoughts, feelings, experience all being mine. That was the illusion. But experiencing, happening, is just as it is, and now it's not claimed. It's just not. I don't claim it as mine, and of course it was always claimed as mine. But I don't feel there's any difference. So I said the other day, I said it's exactly the same and totally different. And the totally different bit, the only way I can try and explain that is, it's just like it would have been, it's just exactly like it would have been for me, but I'm not saying it's for me. Or the one, thought doesn't say it's mine. And even if it does, it's as if it's not that, actually, because I could easily say it's mine, like it's my son and it's my car, but they don't really mean what they mean to me. It's like all the power's gone out of them. I don't see any sense in talking, there's non-duality speak.
No.
Because I got accused the other day of saying, well, it's very obvious you're talking from a personal perspective, because I talk about me and mine and I all the time. And I went, yeah, of course. Well, I'm not gonna fall into that really hideous game of changing language to sort, it just seems very false. So I wouldn't do that. But you ask me how the sense of self feels now. I don't have any answer for that at all. I simply don't know. It feels very natural. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Could it be seen as perhaps the most precious jewel, the most precious perspective in manifestation? A tiny window through which the manifested universe gets a glimpse of its own awe and beauty. It's not our enemy or something to be transcended, but as go ahead.
No, it's not to be transcended. No, this is not. I'm not speaking about transcending anything at all. It's much more like descending than transcending. For me, what I'm trying to describe is almost like a descent into, rather than ascending above and beyond. It's being, I would say, there's much more sense of humanness, of being human, of human being, than there ever was for me as Tim, because my sense is that what me does, or what me did here, was filter life, and it's traditionally, there's the phrase about the veil. I know you studied Advaita, so and there is a sense of the veil being lifted. I could say that, and I would say self is the veil, and it's through which I see the world. So I see everything in relation to me, and really, that if I'm describing the difference, And you could say it's the most subtle difference. It's incredible. So subtle that it's not there, and yet the difference is massive. So again, that's hugely paradoxical. So it's a change that isn't a change, and yet life is so much more beautiful, as you often refer to it. And human beings are much more beautiful than they ever were to me, because of course, what did I do with all human beings? I compared them to myself, which all the beauty is lost in that.
Could you, or do you feel that since the self is a mental fabrication, that we get glimpses of what it's like to be human in the company of others?
Yeah.
That's where love and beauty emerges, is in this imaginary place between.
Yeah, but it's not just with human beings. It's so much more, you know. It's with, well, it appears when it appears, and it knocks. It's just incredible when it appears. So it could appear with a dog or a tree or a landscape, a sky, clouds, anywhere. Music, art, all our attempts. I mean, human attempts to convey the beauty of life, mostly they don't hit home with other human beings, but when they do, boy, do they. When you see a beautiful work of art, and you see the human being who's created that, you see the beauty that they've tried to convey in their art. And it's the same in music, I think. Yeah.
Do you find it more geometrically more intense with human beings? The humanness that we share, just the raw, naked humanness,
Yeah.
the joy of being this imaginary entity.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. Yeah, that's what essentially makes us human. Is that we find human beings more beautiful than anything else. Yeah, how would we not?
And
I
then
mean, I think of my son. I think of my sons, and without a doubt, my sons are the most beautiful things on earth.
Do you get glimpses of your own beauty through them?
Yeah, it's, you could say of my own beauty. You could just say of human beauty. Yeah,
Human beauty.
Yeah, of our beautiful humanness, and that's really what this message is. This message isn't about a transcending. It is. I've never said that before, but it is like descent into being fully human, you could say.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Michael. Because one of the things that spirituality, I feel, has got really wrong is the whole idea of transcending. That there is something beyond, you know, this going beyond our humanness, that essentially makes our humanness, which is by far the most beautiful aspect of life, it makes it wrong. And we were nearly all taught this. We certainly had it, we maybe felt it ourselves, you know, self essentially makes itself wrong because there's things it wants to improve about it, you know, the things that it would, and we were told a lot as children when we were wrong, what was wrong with us, how we needed to improve. And then our adult lives were very much colored by our efforts to try and make it right, to make myself right, to fix myself. And the most beautiful thing of this message is there is nothing to fix. No. Nothing needs fixing. That's why this is worth speaking about.
Tim?
Darren.
I think it's Eva has a hand up, or Leva? Eva?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, This is Eva. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Right. Can I see you? No, I can't see you.
Just a moment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just listening to what you just said. The question comes up: is there still pain for you in any way, or is that this filter that of this me that kind of creates that pain? And when it's seen, or when this me dissolves, whatever, is that pain then gone, like the filter? I'm also asking because there's so many moments of beauty, but then comes a point where everything becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then the pain kicks in, and it's like, it's just too much.
Yeah, it can feel too much. Yeah. Well, that's really what I'm talking about. Me as the filter. It doesn't want to be, me doesn't want to be fully human, because then I'd have to feel everything, and feeling everything feels too much to me. So self filters life to keep itself safe from life. A completely futile attempt, of course, to filter life, but that's what I try and do. And you say, is there no pain? Well, if anything, Eva, there's more pain, not less, because I was the filter that tried to keep myself safe from feeling, especially the feelings that I didn't want to feel: sadness, loss, just the fragility of life. Me is terrified of the essential fragility of being alive, of being. It's incredibly fragile. And so, no, this isn't about not feeling pain. It's about the one who filtered life and tried to keep itself safe from feeling everything naturally. In the seeming absence of that filter, then life just floods in, literally flooding. So if there's tears, it might feel like the tears will never stop.
Well, that's the point. It's like my dad just died, and I think I already told you a couple of weeks ago I'm here in Canada, and I'm sitting in the house here and getting stuff done, and it feels like I hit rock bottom and then come up, but it seems like it could never end. And it's like, I feel like I've got to explain myself somehow, or how deep does it go, or when does it stop? And it's not even about my dad, it's nothing personal, it's just I feel like a wimp. I feel like this is somehow there's a judgment that like, how long are you going to wallow in your pain, is what we often say, or
well, there's all the suffering that right there in what you just said. The suffering is in the saying to yourself, how long are you going to wallow in this? Those being chastising yourself for not being stronger. There is nothing weak about tears. But what we're talking about here is total vulnerability, rather than the strength that me pretended that it had. The pretense of strength, the pretense that not allowing sadness, not allowing grief, that there's somehow some strength in that. Well, there isn't strength, but there's a lot of suffering in that. And you say how long? Well, of course, one of the tactics, one of the strategies self has to get you back being strong is that if you allowed the tears, then they would last forever, which of course they don't, do they? Emotions just come and go like the weather. You can be crying 1 minute and laughing the next. You know, it's and there's shame. You know, there's so much conditioning. I have to say, particularly for men, about, you know, be a man, grow up. About sadness and tears and grief. And I have to say, when I was seemingly absent from and was no longer there to stop the tears, it did feel like they might go on forever. It did feel like that, but of course they don't. And remember, grief is love.
Yeah, yes.
We tend to think of happiness, you know, happiness and bliss as love, but of course sadness is love. Tears are the most human expression, aren't they? Tears and laughter equally. Those two together. So if this is a message about anything, it's laugh and cry. There's something really very, very beautiful about sadness. If you can see that that the sadness is love. And that it's nothing, it's absolutely not wrong at all. We have very powerfully conditioned to make sadness wrong. I think Americans more than even British. I would say it's a British, it's a Western condition, but America have put it in their constitution, which is, you know, the pursuit of happiness as in the constitution. Well, no wonder there's so many people feel wrong because when they're sad. Sorry, did I answer your question, Eva? I don't know. I get speaking, then I don't know what I've said.
Yeah, I guess I've had that sadness my whole life, and I've often wondered about myself. I can cry quite easily, and my emotions are very strong. They've always been overwhelming. My angers, as well as my sadness, as well as and so I walk around like an explosion all the time, either one or the other. And I guess I just wonder, maybe that's the character of this person or whatever. And now it's sadness. So I guess it's like you say, it's not about judging or trying to hold it back or worrying about being kind of odd in my extreme emotions, I guess.
Well, it's just that sadness is okay. It's just sad.
Yeah.
And I really strongly feel that we've made happiness right and sadness wrong.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks. Would anyone else like to ask anything or say anything?
Hey, Tim, it's Sky here.
Hi, Sky.
Hey, just to change the topic a little bit or bring it back where you first started.
Right.
I was recently watching a video with Paul Morgan Summers.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that he said, which I find contradictory, I love his message and the way he puts it into the world. And one of the things that he said was there was a point where he was seeing things before they happened,
Yeah.
having premonitions. And a lot of the new non-duality speak says life is wild, totally unpredictable. We're not going to know what happens next. There is no predestination. So I'm curious, how does this balancing act work out?
Well, first I should say Paul's a really dear friend of mine. I haven't seen him lately, but when I was a seeker, he was great with me. So I've got a hell of a lot of time for Paul. Joey and I once got extremely drunk together, whilst Paul, I mean seriously drunk, on a retreat, not a very spiritual retreat, and Paul Morgan Summers he treated it as his entertainment and just sat laughing because he's teetotal. Well, me and Joey made bigger and bigger fools of ourselves. Anyway, that's just an aside as a tale, but I'm sure Joey can remember that evening. And
I have to clarify, Paul doesn't drink, so it was just the two of us that
teetotal, yeah. That's what I say. He just used it as entertainment. But yeah, well, the way, I mean, I don't know about premonitions, but Paul's experiences, if Paul starts telling you really about it, he's only ever touching on it. Because if he told you really what his experiences were, they're so extreme. I mean, just premonition, precognition, I mean, that's pretty tame on some of the things he's told me. But actually precognition kind of, if I was rationalizing it, it makes sense. Everything is here, everything is this. There is only what's happening. So if precognition is happening, that is, you have thoughts or you imagine what is going to happen in the future, and then it happens. That kind of makes perfect sense if the future is present. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Sky, but to me, that makes perfect sense. So I'm not, I don't have any, I mean, Paul's superhuman, so he's got special powers. I can't tell you how ordinary my powers are. They're very, I just call them basic, whereas Paul's aren't. Paul's are extraordinary. And if you non-duality is saying, it just is obvious, there's just what's happening, but that makes the future is happening as well. It's all here. So why couldn't an appearance happen now and then appear to happen later?
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense.
I have to agree with him and the way that you're putting it out as well. And there's so many people in, well, I don't want to say so many people. There's a few people who are in the non-duality speak who say life is totally chaotic, unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what the F is going to happen next?
Yeah, I would say that.
You would say that too?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Oh, so it's a both and.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to hold it.
I don't see there's any problem with any of it, really. Because if Paul says, he had a vision, or which is, I would call it imagination, but you call it what you like. So he saw something happening in his mind, and then it apparently happened.
Yeah.
I will say of any sort of extra special powers, so what really about any of it? if anyone professed to have anything, you know, you'd have to say big deal, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he says it's the same thing as having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Exactly. And I know for Paul, he would say, well, yeah, it's just, so what? Doesn't mean anything. But of course, what seekers want to do is read something special into that.
Yeah, for a normal human being, a prediction like that is jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
You know, when, yeah.
I would say he's not very good at that, because as far as I know, he hasn't won the lottery yet. So I'd say he's pretty piss poor. And he needs to work on it still.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, it's there's so many different flavors of the way that life flows through individuals.
And the thing is, the way I speak about this and the way Paul's speaks about it, they're pretty opposite ends of a spectrum, you could say. And yet I don't see any, there's no conflict in that at all.
I agree. Thank you, Tim.
Which, you know, seekers look for conflict in listening to one speaker and then, oh, but he said this and she said that. So who's right? Well, the whole message is that there's no one who's right, and so it all becomes okay. There's just ones that you like better than others, or resonate with, or you know, be more in tune with.
And there will always be this level of skepticism or questioning until all of the answers are fully satisfied.
Yeah.
Then there seems to be a relaxation.
It's interesting that you say that, Sky, because I'm going to dispute that. It's not at all when all the questions are satisfied. It's when the one who asks the questions stops asking the questions. This has nothing. This message has absolutely nothing to do with answers. Nothing. This message is there are no answers, and the wonder is the best news is none are required.
Perfect.
So I talked about the peace that passes understanding. Later, after a while, it became obvious why. So why is there this peace? It was because there were no questions anymore. I was not asking life anything. I wasn't asking Tim anything. I was asking a few women out on a date, and that was about it. They were about the only questions I was asking. But I wasn't asking any question, you know, I was not asking why questions. I was not asking how questions. Because they are all questions for me, so that I feel safe. And that's why you could say this is chaotic and wild and totally free. But that makes it sound dangerous. And of course, there isn't anyone in danger. So it doesn't feel dangerous. The wildness isn't a wildness that creates fear.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. Well, so I didn't have anything to say, but I managed to speak. I apologize. Well, I'm apologizing really to those who are not here, because they went to the website and they got the wrong link, apparently. But there we go. So I'll double check to make sure the link on the website is right for Thursday. And if you missed the beginning of today's meeting, then I've decided I'll have next week off, Christmas vacation. Of course, I'm not going on vacation though. There's no holidays. No one's going anywhere. The other thing, I've got a meeting on Wednesday at 6 p.m. British time with Luciana. And Luciana's translating translating into Bulgarian. And although that might sound painful, the few people who came last time, English speakers, didn't dislike it, because what it does is it makes the speaking much slower, and so there's time to digest it. There is a problem here, though, that I have to remember the end of the sentence that I've already begun, and that happened at least 3 or 4 times, where I had the beginning of the sentence translated, and then I came to end it, and there was nothing. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what that beginning was. So, but that only happened a few times. So thanks very much for coming, and hope to see you Wednesday or Thursday. And I'll try and make sure the links are correct this time. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Tim.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.